This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Samoch Beis, and all the learning of this month, the month of Teves, has been generously sponsored by Baruch Hashem, a close friend of the Daf, as a Schos Aliyas Neshama for his father Arya ben Ya'akov. B'siyata Dishmaya, the learning of the entire Chavura, Daf by Daf, day by day. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam should bring Arya ben Ya'akov to higher and higher place in Gan Eden Shel Maila, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, as he is Nene Meziv Hashchina. We pick it up 4 lines from the bottom of Samach Aleph Amud Beis, middle of discussing the halachis of Ish. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, Hamalig as a Gadish, 4 lines from the bottom. So one lights a fire to the Gadish. V'hayba Kalim, and there were Kalim inside the Gadish. Vidalkai, and the Kalim got destroyed, they got burnt. Rav Yehuda Imer Shita, we've seen already. Mishalem kol mashe b'seich v'cham imrim. Say the Chachamim absolutely not. Inu mishalem ela Gadish. You only pay for the stack shel chitin or Gadish shel sa'irin. But now that's the machlekes Rav Yehuda and the Chachamim that we have had so many times. Is there a chiyuv of kalim for ish? Rav Yehuda says yes. Here we actually have 2 things converging, as we're going to see in a moment. We have kalim, and as well you have something tamun inside the Gadish. So says Rav Yehuda, you're chayiv. Says the Chachamim, you're potter. But says the Chachamim, v'royin makam kalim kilu humalei tfuah. Say the Chachamim, it's true, you're potter on the kalim, but the cavity, the airspace that the kalim contain, explain the Chachamim, on that you are obligated. So you have to view and estimate that the airspace that was contained by the kalim is as if it's filled with grain, and then you'd be obligated to pay for the grain that would have been able to be there. Continues the Gemara on Samach Beis Amud Aleph. But explains the Gemara, when is this true? 1 second, let's get rid of that line. Let's get rid of the line, that unsightly line. There. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay, I think that's good. Says the Gemara, I apologize a little bit. There we go. Says the Gemara. When is this true? This is true when one lights when one lights the fire in his own property, and then what happened? V'holcha v'dalka, and the fire went and it consumed b'toich shel chaveiroi. So again, you lit the fire in your property, and then the fire goes and lights up in your friend's property. V'holcha v'dalka v'shel chaveiroi. Aval, however, says the Gemara, if you made a fire in your friend's property, everyone agrees that you would pay for everything that was inside of it. Meaning, in this case, even the Chachamim would be maskim that you'd pay for the inside. If you look at the top Rashi sort of keys us back into that which happened on the previous Amid. Says Rashi, Rava mitaritz la l'taimei bekelim shedarkoi lahatmin begadish. That goes back to the explanation we ended off yesterday's shir. At what point one would obligate for tamun, and the Gemara is explaining, according to Rava, says Rashi, saying that's the derech to be inside the Gadish. Continues the Gemara. Umayder Rav Yehuda l'chachamim. Rav Yehuda is Mayder l'chachamim, meaning Rav Yehuda, who normally obligates on kalim and that which is inside the bar, he is Mayder in the following scenario. 5 lines down, Samach Beis Amud Aleph, b'mashil makayim lachaveiroi, where one lends space to his friend, lahadgish gadish, to stack up his grain. V'hidgish, and what happened? And his friend piled it up. V'hitmin, and he hid something in it. So again, I allow you specifically and explicitly to stack up your grain in my house. And you stack it up, and you go and you push and you stuff something inside, and you hide something in the stack. In such a scenario, she'ein mishalem ella demei gadish bilvad. In that case, says Rav Yehuda, you only have to pay for the demei gadish. And Rashi points out the obvious reason, because you only accept it upon yourself to watch the gadish. So when it's explicit, Rav Yehuda is maskim. Continues the Gemara that there's 4 other cases in which Rav Yehuda will admit that there's a payment as well. If I allow you to stack up wheat and you stacked up barley, if I allow you to stack up wheat, and you covered it, meaning you put wheat, then you covered the wheat with barley, or in all of these scenarios, says Rav Yehuda, all that has had to be paid is the demei seirin bilvad, and the reason being, again, because that is what he agreed to watch. So really, we're ending with 5 scenarios in which Rav Yehuda will be maskim that there is a p'tur, that one does not have to pay for that which is inside of the stack, or that which is instead of the stack. Amar Rava, approximately 10 lines down, the first line is Bilvad. Says Rava, Hanoisein dinar zahav leisha. If someone gives a dinar zahav, a golden coin, to a woman, Vamerlan tells her, is harubai, please be careful with this coin, shall kasefu, and he tells her it's silver. What happens? Hizikasai, if she damages it, she burns it, she throws it into the yam, says Rashi, Mishalem has dinar zav. She has to pay for a dinar zav. Why? What do you mean? It was only silver. Misham da'amar la, because he could tell her. My havelech gabei taskasei, because he could tell her that, why did you damage the coin? Meaning, I told you, it's true. Excuse me. It's true that I told you it was silver and it was really gold. So why is she obligated to pay for gold? Because she went via dime and she damaged it. So what are you doing damaging my item via dime? Says the Gemara, but what happens if Pasha Boy, she doesn't damage it, but she is Paisheya, she's negligent, then Mishalemes, then she has to pay Shel Kasef, then she has to only pay for silver. Why? Says the Gemara, the Amrale, because she could say, Nitiruta de Kasba Kabila Lai. That's what I accepted. You told me it was silver, so I accepted to watch silver. Whereas Nitirusa de Dava Loi Kibel Alai. So says Rava, a fascinating din. Now it's not clear in the case whether she was fooled, whether the gold and the silver look so similar. That's not exactly clear. But the point is that he told her it was silver. So if he told her it was silver, that's what she was makabel to watch. And therefore, that is the reason why she'll only have to pay for silver in the event that she was negligent. Amrle Rav Mordechai to Rav Ashi, says Rav Mordechai to Rav Ashi, Aton, b'derava masnitala. You taught this halacha in the name of Rava. Anan mi masnitan pshitalon. We learned the same halacha from a Mishnah, which is a form of like a Tanya de Misailach, the Gemara proving that which we just said, mi masnita, from a Braisa. Says the Braisa, chitin, if there's wheat, v'chipan b'sayrin, and it's covered with barley, sayrin v'chipan b'chitin, einay mishalem, el demei sayrin bilvad. It's the Braisa we call the time of the Amid that Rav Yehuda was Maida. So Alma, what do we see? Amar Lei could say, Nitiruta de Sayri kabulale. I only accepted to watch barley. Hachanami amar lei netirusa dedava loy kibol alai, proving our din that's only that which you accepted, and if he told her it was silver, excuse me, then she only accepted silver. Continues the Gemara, going a little bit backwards, not backwards, but back into the Mishnah, proving the Shita of Rav Yehuda and figuring out the Mikar. Omar Rav, Shemas Milsal Rav Yehuda, V'lo Yadana Mai, says Rav, I heard something with the name of Rav Yehuda. Of course, where Rav Yehuda in the Mishnah said that there is a Pitur, that there's a Chiv, for Talmud. So says Rav, I heard something from Rav Yehuda. V'lo yadana mahi, Amar Shmuel. V'lo yada Abba, my Shmuel, Rav Yehuda, you don't know what Rav Yehuda holds, the Mechayiv, on this Talmud Be'esh. That's what it was, that there's an obligation for Talmud Be'esh. Asu Takanas, Nigzal Be'ishoi. Why? Because the Chachamim made a Takana for, meaning Rav Yehuda holds your Chayiv, but the Chacham came along and they made a takana in the case of nigzal, when there is a case of theft, literally. But what it means is something that is damaged by the fire. And we'll look at Rashi. Rashi is about 12 lines to the end of the Amid. Astakanas nigzal be'eshai kihechi detiknu rabbanan lenigzal ishava kamagazli. Just like when something gets stolen, there's the Tikkun Rabbanan that the one that lost the item could swear what was stolen v'yitol. Tetzanam Yisach Shavuos Elin Ishbayim v'Noitlin Hasachar v'Nigzal Kach Teknu be'Ishay sheyishvu ma'atamon v'yitol. That what you can make a shvua, that which was tamid, and take that which was there. Continues the Gemara. Ba'i Amimar a shayla. 2 lines into the wide lines of here and Samach Beis Amar Aleph asks Amimar. Asu takanas nigzal b'masur oiloi. Did they make this takana in the case of a masur, in the case of an informer? We'll see it in a moment, or not. Says the Gemara. Ali, but demand according to the opinion that holds that we do not dan a din of the garmi, and this is going to be a machlokes towards the end of this mesech, like garmi being indirect damage. Loiti by Allah is not a shayla. De mesiras nami loy daininan. That if mesirus, if someone gives over, someone informs the government on someone else, that as well, that we will not dan as such a case. Elakiti by ilacha. What's the shayla? Ali, but the man damar daininan dina de garmi. According to the man damar, that we indeed do dan dina de garmi. So the shayla is also called nigzal b'masar. That what the mishvava v'shakal that he could swear and take. Aylai, and answers the Gemara. One big teku. We do not have an answer to the shayla of Amimar. We continue with the story with relating to Talmud, 5 lines into the wide lines. Ahu Gavra. There was a guy de batash b'kasba de chavre who kicked over the money box of his friend. Shadye binahara, and they kicked it into the river. Also, Mari, the owner came, Amar Hachi Vachi Havale Begave, such and such was in the box. Yosef Rav Ashi come ayin bei ki I gavna ma. He says, Rav Ashi, what's the story? I'm Rav, you know the Rav Acha, Brei de Rava, Vamri lo Rav Acha, Brei de Rava le Rav Ashi. Lav hainu masnitzon. This is not the Mishnah that Tanan Moed Chachavna Rav Yehuda. Bemadlik as Abira shebishalim kol mashe b'toichai. This is not the Mishnah that Rav Yehuda says that you're madlik the bira. That the Chachamim are maskim. Normally the Chacham mold, you don't pay for Talmud. But in the case of the bira, in the case of the mansion, if someone lights it up, that you pay for the contents. Why? It's normal to have items in one's house. And in that case, the Chachamim are maskim that it does not get the Patur of Talmud. So says the Gemara, should in this case the money box be the same thing? You have to pay for the contents? Amar Lei responded, Zuzi, you're right. If he asks for cash, then it's true. But what's the case? He's claiming that there were jewels in the box. Do people put jewels in a money box or not? And says the Gemara again, Teku, we have to wait for Eliyahu Navi for this answer. Amar le Rav Yirmiyah Rav Ashi Ta'an Kasba Kaisa de Kasba Bebira. Continues the Gemara with a similar shayla. What happens in a case of a house that was burnt down and the guy asked for a silver goblet? Amr lechazina, we see. Inish amidhu, if he's a wealthy guy, just like he's the kasba, makes sense that he has a silver goblet, then he'll be able to collect payment. Inami, inish behemnehu. Or if he's a trustworthy guy, that someone might have deposited by him, then as well he could swear and take. And if not, lavkol kamina, it's not in his power. What is the difference between a gazlan and a chamsin? This goes back fundamentally as we began this parak. Chamsin, someone who grabs is yahiv dami. A gazlan, a lo yahiv dami. You force someone to give, but he doesn't give money. Amr yahiv dami, chamsin. Karis law, if you give money, it's called a chamsin. V'amr Rav Huna. But Rav Huna taught us, Talua v'zavin, zvina zvine. If you force someone to sell something, it's a good sale. Sounds like there's nothing wrong. If he eventually says, I want to sell it, if he does not, then that's when he gets the status of a chamsin. We turn over to Samach Beis, Amid Beis, Baruch Hashem, wrapping up this 6th parak, and we'll dive straight into the famous and perhaps intricate and difficult parak Meruba in a moment. Says the Mishnah, gates, a spark, patish, that came from a blacksmith hammer, his again damage is chayiv. Gamol, if we have a camel loaded with flax, it's walking in the street, and the pishtan goes into the store. It's a case that we've had at the beginning of the Masechta and as well as Masechta Shabbos. And it gets lit up by the fire of the storekeeper. And lights up the whole bira. Whereas then he is Potter. Says the Gemara, what do we see from Rav Chanukah? We see from Rav Yehuda that the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is to place it. They place it within 10 tefachim of the ground. Why? If you place it above 10, Rav Yehuda, Ner Chanukah Potter. Why would there be a Patur by Ner Chanukah? Leimalei. He could have told the Balagamol, the camel guy. The storekeeper could have said to him, we should have placed it. Excuse me. Yeah, he could tell. No, I said it backwards. The Baal Gamal could tell the Chayvani that he should have placed it higher than a Gamal and his rider. So therefore, Elala, meaning because the Mishnah said, or Rita says you're Potter by Ner Chanukah. Question is, that the Chenvini, the Baal Chenvini, the storekeeper is Potter. Question is, wait, if you're able to put it above 10, why is he Potter? He should have placed it high up, and by him not placing it high up, that's at some level contributing to the damage. Elolav Shmamina, says the Gemara, must be a raya mitzvah nich b'toch hasara. It says the Gemara, Amriloi, no raya. Loilim l'cha really out every malam hasara. Really, you're able to put it above 10. So my amrit. So what's the taina? You buy the nuchel malam gamal v'rachvai. So then the storekeeper should put above the camel and the driver. Keep the mitzvah kasik. The answer is you're allowed to place it above 10. But since this guy is dealing with a mitzvah, we don't matriach him to place it so high up. We don't matriach him to place it so high up because we don't want him to not do the mitzvah. And we conclude, Amar Rav Kahana, Tarish Rav Nasbar Menu Mishvei Rav Tanachin Er Chanukah Sheiniach Lamala Me'esrim Ama Pesula Kesuko Kemavoy, a hidden gem in the world of Chanukah. Right over here at the end of Perak HaKoines. Hadron Aloch HaKoines was a bit of a short, nostalgic parak maybe for some, as this was one of the first brakim of Gemara that many people learn. We shall do an incredible chazara. And with that, we dive into the, again, perhaps famous or infamous due to some of the difficulties of Parak Meruba. Says the Mishnah, Meruba midas tashlumei kefel midas tashlumei arba v'chamisha. The payment of kefel is meruba, is more. What does more mean? More inclusive, more dinim than the payment of dalid v'hei. Now, what's the payment of kefel? What's the payment of dalid v'hei? We will see. Kefel is simply on something that is stole. You stole $1, you got to pay back kefel, you got to pay back 2. You stole an item, you got to pay back twice the value. What is dalad v'hei? Dalad v'hei is a special din, is a kanas. Is a kanas, tashlumei dalad v'chamisha, that if you steal an animal and you're teveach moicher, you slaughter it or you sell it, then you have to pay 4 or 5 times the value, which we'll see this extensively. And explains the Mishnah to start. Why? Shemidas teshlumei kefel noiheges bein bedavar sheish by ruach chayin bein bedavar shein by ruach chayim. The reason is because kefel is applicable to everything, whether it's a living item or whether it's not a living item. Whereas, as we just explained, midas teshlumei arba v'chamisha ein noiheges ela bishar v'seh bilvad. Why? Shenemar kignav ish shar eiseh v'tavchay oy moichroi. You slaughter or you sell it. Ina goinev. Achar haganim v'shalmitushay kefel. And now the Mishnah ends off with other dinim of kefel. If someone steals after something was stolen, Eina goinev achar haganim v'shalmitushay kefel. If Ruvain stole and then Shimon steals it from Ruvain, Shimon does not have to pay kefel. And similar, and if someone slaughters and sells after it's already stolen, so really 2 parts of the Mishnah. Part A, equating kefel more inclusive by all items to dalad v'chamisha, only by shar v'seh. And part B, the Mishnah dealing with that when you have a subsequent acts of geneva, of tevicha, mechira, slaughtering and selling, then there's no payments of kefel, there's no payment of dalid v'hei. Begins the Gemara. Vilu midas tashlumi kefel noheges bein ganef bein betoyin tanis ganef. Omidas tashlumi arba v'chamisha eino noheges ela beganef bilvad loikotani. Says the Gemara. 1 second. The Mishnah listed one intrinsic difference between kefel and dalad v'hei. That kefel is by living and non-living items. Dalad v'hei is only shar v'seh. Says the Gemara. That seemingly implies that there are no other differences. So we did not list the difference by toyin tainas ganif. If one claims that an item was stolen, if they have a shaymer and he claims that an item was stolen, that in such a scenario there would yes be kefel. Whereas when someone claims tashlumi arba v'chamisha, only is by the ganav bilvad. Says the Gemara, this is Misayeh Alei. This is a raya to the shita of Rav Chia bar Abba, Rav Chia bar Abba. Why? Amar Rav Chia bar Abba. Amar Rav Yochanan, says Rav Chia bar Abba, the name of Rav Yochanan. Ha-toyin taines ganif b'pikadoin. So when an item is deposited by him and he claims it was stolen, then Mishan Tashlumei Kefel, you yes, pay Kefel. Tavachu machar. If he claims that it was, if he, not if he claims, again, he claimed it was stolen, and what happens, it was not, meaning, again, we had this a few days ago, he claims Reuven's a shomer, he's entrusted to watch a certain item, he claims that it was stolen, and we find out, guess what? Reuven stole it! So Reuven himself stole it, he got us to pay kefel. If Reuven then goes and daveach umachar, slaughters and sells it, mishalim tashlumei arba v'chamisha, he pays 4 or 5. Ikdi amri, so that's a riot of Rav Chia bar Abba, that what? That the case of the Mishnah, that toyin tanis ganif does indeed apply, let's say that right. Again, one more time. That kefel is noiheg bein beganif bein betoyin tanis ganif, whereas dalad v'hei is only by the ganif himself. Says the Brisa further. Again, let's bring a raya from the Mishnah straight to Rav Chia bar Abba. Rav Chia bar Abba, ein bein meruba, ein bein. Meruba Katani, Tana Vishayr. Does say Ein Bain the differences in Meruba? There are more differences. So the Mishnah just listed some. Tana Vishayr left some out. That's a right of Chibar Rabba that there is indeed another difference between Tashlumi Kefal and Dalid Va'eh. Continues the Gemara about 10 lines from the bottom, and with this we're going to conclude. Shemidas Tashlumi Kefal no Hagas by living in non-living items, whereas Dalid Va'eh is only by Shar Visa. Says the Gemara, Minahani Milu, where do we know this din from? Teitanu Rabbana, we learned in a Braisa called Dvar Pesha. Says in the Braisa, for anything that one was Paisheya, for any matter of liability, this is regarding to Kefel, says the Torah. Kolal is very general. Al Sharval Chamar, Al Sev, Al Salma, on a donkey, on a sheep, or a garment, Prat is specific. Al kol aveda, on any lost animal item, chazaru klal is general again, a kol davar aveda. Klalu pradu klal, iat adon el kina brat, has to be similar to the brat, similar to the specific, which is shar, chamar, sen, salma. So ma brat mefurash, davar hametaltalin, vigufay mamoin. I've called them hametaltalin, vigufay mamoin, meaning both living animals and items. Salma, shirt. Yatsu karkois, this comes and is excluding land, she'inun metaltalin, which has not moved. Yatsu avodim shokshu karkois. Yatsu shtarais, sha'av bisha metaltalin ashtar. That moves, of course, in guf and mammon is not intrinsically money itself. Yatsu hektish. Hektish is excluded. Re'eu ksiv. It says your friend. So says the Gemara, and with this we're going to stop. We'll pick it up from here in the next year. It says the Gemara, what is the Mekar that Kefil is noyig bein by living and whether non-living animals? Called Dvar Pesha is general. Shar Chamar says Salma is specific. Kol Aveda is general. So for Klal Upradu, Klal has to be Ke'in similar to the Prat. What were the Prat? Animals and I objects a salma, so anything which is an animal or an object, which if you were to clarify and categorize, what is the defining, what is the unifying factor between Shar Chamar and Salma, it's going to be, it's a davar metaltalin, it's movable, and it's gufa, it is intrinsically money. So land, slaves, are things which are not intrinsically money, actually better, which are not movables. And shtarais, even though it's movable, but it's not goof, it's not money itself. And hektish, it says re'eus, all these items are excluded from the tashlumi kefel. Pick it up from here the next year, b'siyata dishmaya.